In 1964, Lloyd Alexander published the first book of the Prydain Chronicles, called The Book of Three. Today, I want to take a closer look at the copy that I have on my bookshelf, an edition from 1969, which I love. Let's dive into what I think makes this edition special and why I'm proud to have it in my collection. I'm Will Kelly, an illustrator, graphic designer, and visual storyteller. I love creating artwork that tells a story, and I'm fascinated by the world of publishing. In this video and others, I want to explore the art and design that goes into making a book beautiful and what I believe makes the books in my collection interesting. So let's take a look. So one of the things that drew me to this book, obviously, when I found it on the bookshelf, was just this amazing medieval style illustration, which I just think is fantastic. This amazing cover illustration by Eveline Ness. I just loved the way this artwork was created. It feels very of its time, very 1960s, but also sort of playing on those like old medieval traditions. I just love the figures and the simplicity of how they're created and constructed. There's a very flat graphic quality, which I love. Just really interesting perspective in the illustrations. Kind of gives it this sort of folk art flavor. Great color design, the rich greens, which I feel like green tends to be a very fantasy related color for illustrations. Of course, Henwin, the star of the show, the sort of the catalyst for the story to happen. She can tell the future and has portents and all these sorts of things. She's a talking pig, which is amazing. And Elanwi, the princess, I believe, from the story, and the assistant pig keeper, Taryn, who is the main character. And I just love the decoration and the sort of ornamentation and color palette. This pink and green, I feel like, is a very 1960s sort of palette. I think that was used a lot in that era for some reason. The titles for the cover were set in Gaudi text Lombardic capitals. And this is a typeface designed by Frederick W. Gaudi in 1928. And I just love the real legibility of this is hard to find in black letter fonts. I think you would consider this a black letter. But I do like the ability to read this, and it just has these really great little ornamentations, as you can see, that I think just really give it a medieval flavor. And I just love that. It's just a beautiful wraparound cover, which as we go to the back here, you can see that this is a used library copy, which I'm very proud of. I love library editions. I love just the weight and the durability that they have. There's a sort of, I don't know, just a sort of history there with people who've checked this book out. I love that, I respect it, and I feel like old library copies that you get at library book sales, I think there's a great history there. I feel like library editions that are put out to pasture, it just sort of, it's a little sad, but also they've done their job, and now they're back out on the streets, still doing what they need to do, and I love that. And on the back here we have the Horned King, who is the villain of the piece, maybe slightly one-dimensional as a character, but definitely an amazing design. We've got the antlered mask and the black sword. I just love the visual of this character riding around, just terrorizing people with this mask. And then there's you can barely see it here, but these are these giant birds called, I believe, gwythaints, something along those lines. It's a Welsh name, I think. And then just the speed that's conveyed with the strokes here on the tail. I just think that's so awesome. And then his little minions that are following him around. Not extremely terrorizing, but yeah, just very interesting. This enemy looks like he's probably asleep, but I believe he's supposed to be dead. So yeah, this is just some really, again, these little sort of miniature trees are interesting detail for the bottom of the cover. And as you open it up, these editions just create this great like wraparound effect. Sorry, the light is glaring a little bit, but you can see how the characters are in pursuit of one another, and it's just a great sort of speed is conveyed. There's just this sort of energetic atmosphere that I just don't think you get with a lot of modern covers. I do think it's interesting that they cropped, the illustrator cropped the tail so that there would be room for the title, which is just a great design choice. You have to make those calls when you're illustrating and designing. So that pretty much wraps up the cover, and I love the framing of, just one more note here, I love the framing of just the way this artwork is cropped. It's such a clean look. You've got the band of artwork going down the center, and this carries through with all 5 books, 5 books, the same typography. Although in later editions, I think they did change this title typeface, but yeah, I just love the energy there, and yeah, so that's the cover. Inside, there's some nice little details about the book. We've also got the art credit for the jacket, Jacket and Map by Evelyn Ness. Inside, I've still got the old Shelby County Library. This book was in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm from Tennessee, and I just love the history of someone had actually checked this book out at some point and hopefully enjoyed it. Although looks like there's not a lot of people on this card listed. I'm not really sure how that works in the library world. Maybe someone can comment on that in the comments. The title, impactful on this page, The Book of Three, and there's Hinwin the pig on top of the drop cap, which I think is just such a fun choice. And the fact that it's up in the top right corner is just very interesting. It's striking. And then here on this title page, they carry it across 2 pages. And we have all 5 of the Prydain Chronicles listed. And apparently Evelyn Ness also illustrated some picture books, which I would love to get my hands on. Copyright 1964. This printing was in 1969. I love the table of contents here. Makes me excited, you know, to see what's going to happen. And chapter names are always fun, just to sort of imagine what's the flame of Dernwin, you know. And then we come to this just gorgeous map by Evelyn Ness, and I really think this has a lot of nods to Tolkien, his Hobbit illustration for the maps in The Hobbit, and I may be wrong in terms of publication date, but I definitely think this is sort of where fantasy was starting to come back on the scene as a, you know, as a popular thing. And I love this sort of, you can hardly see it, but there's sort of some gray strokes for little hills and mountains. And at first I thought this was like pencil. Someone had like drawn this in, like a kid who was trying to practice their map making skills, but they're actually part of the book. So yeah, just great use of spot blacks and even some gray for these trees. Fantasy maps are just a lot of fun to look at and explore. This also, I'm not 100% sure, but I know that this looks a lot like the coastline of Wales, if I'm correct. And I mean, obviously these tales were based on Welsh mythology. And, you know, I'd have to also point out the great use of drop caps here. I just love the little pig at the beginning of every chapter. It's just such a great little choice, and then the drop caps for the chapter titles as well. Super fun. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this look at my personal copy of Lloyd Alexander's The Book of Three. I love discovering vintage and well-loved books that have character and history beyond the story they contain. If you're new to Lloyd Alexander or just looking for a beautiful fantasy book to add to your library, I highly recommend this edition. It definitely hits all the right notes for me. Let me know in the comments if you grew up reading this series or if you had a specific edition that was your favorite, especially if you remember checking this edition out at the Shelby County Library in Memphis. And I'll be judging more books by their cover in future videos, so hit the subscribe button if you'd like to stick around. Until then, go rescue some old books.